Okay. Spinning
Hello,
slide.
everybody. How are you guys doing on today? I am super duper excited. I am definitely fangirling because I get to hang out with award winning author Rhonda McKnight. Guys, let me just tell you, I'm super duper excited because Bitter and Sweet is live and in color. This is release week for Rhonda McKnight. You guys already know what to do. Like, tag, and share, and tell a friend to come on down to the cafe and hang out with us as we hang out with Rhonda McKnight and talk about her brand new release, Bitter and Sweet. And before I get going, because guys, as you can see, I'm cheesing, I'm super duper excited, I'm fangirling. Let me slow down. Let me allow Rhonda McKnight to introduce herself to the people.
Okay. Hey, people. I'm Rhonda McKnight, and I'm trying to be more excited than Angela. Angela, that's hard to be, but because she gets so excited about books. But I appreciate her. I am the author of I want to say 27 books. I think this is my 27th book. I need to have count, but it's the one I'm most excited about today. It's Bitter and Sweet. I write women's fiction and I write romance. My women's fiction is my new space. I had a book come out last year in 2023, and it was the title was "The Thing About Home." It was my first women's fiction, strong romance elements in that one, because I have been a romance author for a little over 10 years before I wrote that book. This book sits squarely in the I think the women's fiction space with some historical fiction. I write in dual timeline, so I give you the history, the historical part of the book, and the contemporary part of the book. So other than that, I am always a Jersey girl who has landed in the South. I was in Atlanta for 20 years, and I've been in South Carolina for 5 years. And so that's a little about me.
I love it. I love it. And Rhonda, you mentioned something to us that, of course, those who haven't. Hey, Pat, thank you for
Hey,
joining
Pat.
us. We have Dahlia hanging out with us on
Hey,
today.
Daya.
Rhonda, the fans are coming out. We got Letitia hanging out with us on today. Guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. But Rhonda, for those of us who have been following you forever, and of course, we love your romance books. But let me just tell you, my friend, you have wowed us with your women's fiction. As I like to say, you did your good writing, girl. Your good writing, which you always do, your good writing. But of course, you brought us to think about home, and now Bitter and Sweet. And Rhonda, this is literally a book, and it's so awesome because I actually saw a book blogger on TikTok today that it was a video, and they was like, what's a book that like 20 pages in that is already going to be a good book? How did I know that she was talking about Bitter and Sweet? And the reason that I knew she was talking about Bitter and Sweet, because Rhonda, when I started reading this book, I was like, it's a 10. It's a 10. I wasn't even finished yet. And I was like, oh my goodness, this book is like so good. So I just wanted to tell you before we get into it, Rhonda, Bitter and Sweet is definitely on Angela's 2024 list of faves. Okay, let me just tell you that. And for those who know book math, it's a 10 out of 5, hands down. I just want to let you know that personally, that's how I feel about Bitter and Sweet. And for me, I mean, it was from the cover. As soon as I saw the cover, and then just reading this amazing women's fiction where you just put your touch on it. So speaking of the cover, what was it like when you got your final cover? What was that like for Rhonda McKnight?
I initially I was concerned about the cover. I When the cover was shown to me, I was like, well, I asked for a restaurant scene. See, I do this thing where I ask for a certain thing, and then when I get it, I'm like, oh, can we go back to the drawing board? I was wrong. But what happened is because I felt like it was it was a beautiful cover. But again, I was a little concerned. Like if you look at the thing about home, which I'm going to share real quick, I've got this woman here and I thought, oh, don't I kind of need like a little bit of a person off to the side, blah, blah, blah. And then I remembered the advice that I got from my mentor many, many years ago. And she said, girl, stay out the cover business. You're not in the cover business. You in business of writing books. And those people particularly, and I realize especially my publisher, they don't miss on covers ever.
Uh-huh.
They don't. Like if you look at their catalog, they don't miss on covers. And so but then the more I looked at it, the more the blue and the blue blanket and everything about this, like this low country moss, honey, it just grew on me. And let me tell you, it grew on me so much. I got a necklace. And if you look behind me, I got a picture on the wall, child. What over there. I love this cover. And it is working for me with readers.
It is working for you, my friend. It is working for you. Guys, if you're just joining us, we are hanging out with award-winning author Rhonda McKnight, hot off the press, her latest women's fiction title, Bitter and Sweet. And Rhonda, speaking of titles, you know we got to talk about titles a little bit. Okay, I need you to spill a little tea, my friend. Was Bitter and Sweet your original working title, or the title came later on? Spill the tea for the people, Rhonda.
No. The title is never the working title. Okay, so any authors out there they know publishers change their titles. So my original working title was Something of Her Own, because there's a little known secret about this book. Yeah. When I originally drafted the first version of this book, submitted it to my publisher, it was actually set in the same story world as this book. The great grandmother in this story was one of Elijah and Odessa Black's children.
Okay.
So the contemporary story was going to be about her great grandchildren. So because I set it in the Black universe, I had a title that played off the thing about home. It was Something of Her Own. Which continues to be a theme in this book, Bitter and Sweet. Right. So my publisher was like, well, no. And then I changed the book. I decided that, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Like I did a massive rewrite after I thought about that. And so glad that I did. And so the title that I still submitted, I think, Something of Her Own, because that's still a theme in the book. But then they said, well, we don't want anything that like remotely sounds like it's connected to the thing about home. We don't want the word thing. So they submitted a list to me. I didn't like any of them. I came back with The Bitter and the Sweet, The Bitter and the Sweet. And they said Bitter and Sweet, and we were done. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, it's so perfect.
Wow. And Rhonda, thank you for sharing a little bit of tea about this title of Bitter and Sweet. Guys, if you're just joining us, we're hanging out with Rhonda McKnight. We are super duper excited, guys. It is release week for her. And I just want to tell you guys, if you have not done so already, I'm going to need you to go and tell a friend to get you a copy of Bitter and Sweet. And guess what, guys? This is a book that is available in ebook, print, and audio. Shout out to this is audio book month or what have you. Mm-hmm. And the audio book, guys, is amazing as well. Just hold tight. We'll be sharing with you how you can get your hands on a copy of this book in ebook, print, and audio as well. Now, Rhonda, okay, let's get into it a little bit, my friend. Can you tell the people what inspired Bitter and Sweet? Because again, we're kind of in the low country. It's women's fiction, but Rhonda, you know I'm falling in love with your Southern women's fiction as well. Can you tell us what inspired Bitter and Sweet?
The thing that inspired the story was actually one of my aunts. I named her after I used her name in the thing about home. Her name is Fina. She was sort of a matriarch of our family on my mother's side. And she was a great cook and a Southern woman who had some really difficult paths to finding her place in the world, her history. And I didn't know all of it, but I knew some of it. And I wanted to write a book that I named the character Fina, and I wanted to write a book about her. But what happened when I changed the book from being, like I said, in the Black family world, I was writing a different story about a woman who, in my opinion, still represented this aunt who meant so much to me, but also represented, I think, so many women during that time. Tabitha Tabitha Cooper. Let me just say this: this book has a contemporary story and has a historical story. The historical story begins during the years of 1915 and runs through the Great Depression, ends at the very back of the Great Depression in 1938. And Tabitha is a single mom navigating her way in Charleston, South Carolina, after a great loss. And the only thing she knows how to do is cook. And so she is trying to establish a restaurant business. And so I felt so very motivated to tell the story of a woman. Like, I could just envision there were many of our sisters, our ancestors, Black women, who were probably doing the same thing. Like, cooking was their thing. And they were, how many of our grandmothers and great grandmothers made a living, survived cooking? How many? Right.
Right.
And so I wanted to tell that woman's story. And so studying the story during Jim Crow and the Great Depression, especially passing through, some of the years that were tougher there, really was something very personal that I was just committed to bringing to the attention of readers. So I was inspired. So really the inspiration was twofold in the historical story and the contemporary story. And I can share this in my author's note. There's a health crisis in the US, and that is in Black maternal mortality rates. And so my family is a family that has had to deal with that. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, I said maternal grandmother, died in childbirth when my mother was 2 years old. And so I wanted to highlight a story that I wanted to write a story that would sort of highlight that and show what the aftermath of that, what that looks like in the aftermath. It's not my family story. It is certainly like 300% fiction. But I just felt really inspired by God and led by God, because this is a really emotional book. I don't think it's a traumatic book at all. I don't do trauma, but it's very emotional. And there's therapy involved in the book. Like I said, there's a therapy rep. And there's so much like actual therapy on the page for one of the characters who has been hurt by the loss of her mother. And so I wanted to tell, I love digging deep into complicated characters with complicated situations. That's my jam. And I really loved peeling back the layers on what the impact of something like that could be. So the contemporary story is the story of two estranged sisters who have no relationship. They've never had a relationship. And their grandmother summons them they live in the upstate of South Carolina. And so I got to share a little bit of the upstate. I'm going to get to the upstate though, y'all, just hold on for me. And she summons them from the upstate of South Carolina to her home in Georgetown and in the Low Country. Their grandfather's been ill. They think that they're coming because he's gotten worse. And what the grandmother has for them is, no, I got grandpa. Don't y'all worry about grandpa. I need y'all to go and reopen Tabby's, the family's restaurant.
Yeah.
That has been in business for 87 years. But these two girls don't have a relationship at all. And so there's a lot going on in that kitchen that has nothing to do with cooking. Okay. A lot of tension in that kitchen, a lot of heat in that kitchen. And so again, like I said, we meet their great grandmother. She's building this restaurant in Charleston. So what you learn immediately upon closing this book is history repeats itself. What we don't deal with in the past comes back in the present. And that there are things that we carry generationally through families. So that's what it is.
Rhonda, let me just tell, you have just hit us with so many headliners. And guys, let me just tell you, you are in for a treat. The thing about The Bitter and Sweet is that it is a book that is dual timeline. And Rhonda already know I love a good dual timeline. And Rhonda, you execute this dual timeline just with excellence. Okay. I loved it. I love both the past and the present. And one of the things that I want to talk to you about, because you gave us a little dual timeline in the thing about home, but you did it again in Bitter and Sweet. tell us about your journey in writing a dual timeline, because right, Rhonda, as an expert writer, dual timeline is it's not an easy thing to do and
Mm,
to
mm,
execute
mm.
it well. And you did an excellent job in both books. Tell us a little bit about that dual timeline journey.
It is not an easy thing to do. Okay. Let me tell you. And it happened by accident the first time. I sold a contemporary novel in the thing about home, and there were journal entries. And
Uh-huh.
so I was struggling with the journal entries. And one night I just sort of went to bed frustrated with the whole book and woke up at 2 a.m. and I saw this woman washing blood off her hands in a river. And I thought, what is that? And so I got back to my laptop, wrote the first chapter with Odessa Black that went back to 1867. And I remember thinking, okay, like, what's this? Because I don't write historical fiction. And so I went back to bed. And so then I get to writing again, and it happened again. And I said, oh my gosh. And so I talked to my editor at my publishing house, and I said, I know this is a contemporary novel, but this thing is happening. And so she said, well, I trust you. We'll work it out. So there it was. And so then when it came time for Bitter and Sweet, it just naturally happened. It was like, this is definitely going to be dual timeline.
Wow.
The thing about Home was probably about 20% historical. This novel is nearly, I think, like 48%. It is almost halfway. And that was hard. It was big. Angela, you comment about it being seamless. And what's interesting is all of my novels, the books that are my favorite books, when I talk about when someone says, what's your favorite book of all time? Even though that, depends on the time that you ask me. But really, there's one book that never leaves that list. And that is Your Blues Ain't Like Mine by B.B. Moore Campbell. And that was I just realized last year, you know what, that's a dual timeline novel. Ooh. And so then when I start thinking about the books that I really love, they are set in dual timeline. So I think I've always had an affinity for that. I love historical fiction, but I love a good contemporary story mixed in with it. And I like, even in my television, I like to write, like to watch things that kind of go back and forth. I would love to give somebody else credit, like having a great editor to help me get it done, but it's just like, I taught myself, I know how to do it. It's I was really concerned. I knew that Tabitha's story was extremely strong. And so I had to work really hard. This is a thing with dual timeline stories, that a lot of times people will love the historical story more and feel like the contemporary story felt flat because, a lot of times the author, will sort of dig into that historical story. For some reason, if there's a criticism of it, it's usually of the contemporary story. But I love that, but I worked real hard to make sure that wasn't going to happen. And I love the feedback that I've gotten from, because right now I have a 60-person social media tour. And out of those 60 people, I think probably a good 40 of them have reviewed it. And I love hearing over and over and over again, I love the contemporary and the historical story. Oh my gosh. And so, so I don't know, child. I just get it done.
Well, let me just tell you, kudos to you, hats off to you. That dual timeline was dual timeline, and it was doing what it was supposed to do. I absolutely loved it. As you can see, I'm overjoyed. And for me, a dual timeline is done correctly when I love both the past and the present equally. And I definitely do that with Bitter and Sweet as well. Guys, again, if you're just joining us, we are hanging out with Rhonda McKnight. Not only is Rhonda hanging out with us on today, but we're celebrating. It's Bitter and Sweet release time. And Bitter and Sweet is one of those books, how Rhonda, you see the cover reveal, and you get information from the authors, throughout that, it's coming soon. And I was looking, I remember when you was doing your countdown on last week, and then finally it was like 3 more days, 2 more days, 1 more day. And I was like, oh my goodness, because Bitter and Sweet was one of those books, like when you read a book early and you just ready to talk to somebody about it, but it ain't out yet because everybody haven't read it yet because it's not officially released. But if you get an early copy, you're able to read it. It is definitely that book, guys, that I'm super duper excited that everybody now get to experience what I got to experience when I read Bitter and Sweet. So, of course, if you guys have a question or two for Rhonda McKnight, put it in the comment section. We'll be sure to include you. Now, Rhonda, you cannot leave here without us talking about these amazing characters just a little bit. You have shared with us that it's dual timeline. We got the past, we got the present, and they are both done with excellence. But let's talk about first. We're going to talk about the past. We got to talk about Tabitha because good old Tabitha, Rhonda, she just grabs your heart from the very beginning. Okay. I mean, Tabitha was pulling at my heartstrings. I mean, from when she grew up, from the first gentleman. I just knew, Rhonda. I just knew. I said, you know what? He ain't up to no good. He ain't up to no good, Rhonda. I said, see, why? Just why? But anyway, we ain't gonna go into all those details. But tell us a little bit about Tabitha. If you had to describe her for us, what would you say?
Gosh, I loved writing Tabitha. Tabitha is one of those. First of all, I think one of the reasons people really fall in love with Tabitha very quickly is because she's so young. The story opens, she's 17 years old, and she knows what she's good at. She's one of those people who she has a strength and a resilience that you see the entire book, and you see it from the beginning. You really do, because she knows she's a good cook. She has this nickname that they called her at school that her mother taught her to lean into. So she has these strengths, but she also has weaknesses, like most of us. And one of them is sort of in the area of her self-esteem. It's the years of 1915. She has, like, beautiful older sister. She considers herself to be the she's like the black sheep of the family. And there's like a juicy family secret that, honey, we ain't gonna talk about that one. A juicy family secret that sort of, that gets unpacked along the way. But because of this sort of her feeling like the black sheep of her family, it's very easy for the wolf to come in, because what do you know? The wolf can see the black sheep. And for a wolf to come in and sort of snatch her away. She's a woman looking for love, like a lot, trying to establish her place in the world. She thinks she's found it. And very quickly finds herself in a situation where she is separated from her family, the people that love her, that I don't think she always felt like she was loved. That she didn't always feel like she was loved, and so it was easy for him to kind of sneak in and take her away with his wonderful charm. And so, but she ends up a tragedy happens, and she ends up alone as a single mother with her children. And in Charleston, in a city like Charleston, in the year, I think it's 1919, is when her journey alone begins, and she has to figure out how to survive. And so Tabitha is she's so resilient. I think she makes a lot of the same mistakes we make, or like, if you're not making them, your friend making them, you know somebody making them, honey. And so
somebody making them.
So that's what I think, that people connect with Tabitha, because she just shows up fully human. You see a lot of the challenges that she had, or challenges that we as women have today. They're no different. It's a new day, different devils, but it's the same situations. And so I think that's why people love Tabitha so much, because they can relate to her. She is really I think all of the women in the book show up fully human, because there's a lot of emotional work on the page. One of my things that I do as a writer is I'm a deep POV writer. I take the reader deeply into the mind and the heart and the emotions of characters. Like, you feel every yearn, every groan.
Absolutely.
You feel their pain. They react to. I put it all on the page. That's how I write. I tell a story that's very interior to my characters, and so because of that, it's truly like, it's not just a journey through the plot. It is a journey through the emotions and the decisions and why the decisions of the characters. And so I think that's why people really relate to Tabitha a lot, because I think we all know Tabitha's.
Mhm. And Rhonda, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that you touched on that, because that is one of the things that I enjoy about your writing in general. And then, of course, about it in Bitter and Sweet. It's so authentic and real and raw. And I love how you do tap into the emotional psyche of these individuals. I love the fact that even today, how you, like you mentioned earlier, the therapy was on the page. I love that as well, that you talked about that. I loved how there was like this entanglement of the past and the present, and through them reading her through them reading her letters or what have you, finding more out about who Tabitha, was, and the strength of her and all that she went through, and then bringing it into present day as well. Again, it makes for one of those reads that you're literally on the edge of your seat, whether you're in the past or whether you're in the present, finding and wanting to know what's coming out next. I do want you to know, Rhonda, and for those who are watching, you will be talking to the pages. I know I was. I was having a whole conversation like, oh my goodness. I mean, Rhonda, I'll spill a little bit of tea. It's in the present, and it's when Mariah and Sabrina are having a conversation, and it's about those cakes in the jars. Boy,
Mm.
I was letting Mariah have it. I was like, look, okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna need you to give
yeah.
your sister a break, and I'm gonna leave it there because I need y'all to read the story. But Rhonda, I had a whole conversation with Miss Mariah. Okay, I was with Dante. I was like, Mariah done lost her mind. But anyway,
Mariah is catching it all over. I can tell you, she's catching it all over Instagram and TikTok. Mariah is on the list of the most wanted. Mariah, some folks ain't forgiving Mariah. They don't care what happens. Mariah is unforgivable. And it should not be
Rhonda,
that
I
way.
was
But
having a
honey,
whole
I went
conversation. I
in with
was like,
Mariah. At that intensity, I enjoyed writing that character. I enjoyed writing
oh,
the
I love that.
contrast between them because, like I said, these sisters are estranged. Mariah is the older sister. She's the one who's more successful. She is, and she might be a little bitter. She might be a little bitter. And the baby sister is younger. She definitely on
Mm.
the sweet side. She definitely on the sweet side. And so we have, so not only do we have this bitter and sweet in terms of the themes of the book and the theme, um,
Yeah.
that it's a journey of faith, family, faith, forgiveness. It's deeply a
Yes.
book about grief and loss, which at this point in my life, at 58,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like it's
Mhm.
time
Mhm.
for me to tell those stories. A lot of my readers that have been with me for a long time,
Mm.
honey, they've aged with me. Okay. I've been published since 2009. And we've gotten to these places where we're caregiving. We've lost people that are important to us. And not saying those things don't happen when you're in your 20s and 30s, but I've gotten to those places where having to deal with that type of healing over really, or having to know that you have to reheal. You have to constantly be work on healing your emotions, or you'll just get swallowed up by how difficult life can be. Because it just
Mhm.
sort of compounds.
Mhm.
And so there's happiness, and
Mhm.
there's those sweet days, but there's definitely a lot of more bitter. And so I enjoyed
Mhm.
really sort of writing about that. And then, like I said, that contrast even in the characters and their personalities, one being bitter and one being sweet. And
Yeah.
Mariah's catching it all over. But Mariah, at the end of the day, I think readers find out that even if they, child decide they still want to box Mariah in the street, at the end of the day, Mariah's motivation for who she was and what created Mariah was strong. Nobody can tell me it wasn't. She just wasn't
Yes.
nasty. She wasn't nasty for no purpose. And so there was a
Right.
lot
Yeah.
that
Rhonda.
went into
Woo,
who
child.
she was and what happened in that family. And and so, but it was really but I really enjoyed writing that character, and I love seeing, like, people are putting gifts up about her, and I've enjoyed watching the response on social media to Mariah's character, because I knew folks was going to want to come for her. I knew they would.
But Rhonda, I love how it unfolds in her therapy sessions, how the layers are pulled back, because like you said, you did
Mhm.
mention a little bit that once you kind of get to the root of it, you kind of understand, and you her a little bit more, and why she is the way that she is, or what have you. And I love seeing that unfold. And like, and child, let me just tell you, I love, because y'all, if you know anything about Rhonda, she gonna give you a little bit of romance. She gonna give you a little bit of romance.
A bit
But
of
I
romance.
loved even her pulling back, even Dante, like he even had a little element in there helping to pull back the layers of him
Yeah.
as well. And Rhonda, before we allow you to read a little bit, you got to share with us, because of course, just like in the thing about home and bitter and sweet, you give us some good food. Oh my goodness, you give us some good food. What was
Yeah.
that like as well, writing some of those recipes and food into bitter and
Gosh,
sweet?
I love writing about the food. It's so easy to do when it's the low country. And so the fact that this book was set in a restaurant and we have a chef, I introduced a chef as the character rather than just not, slight difference between a cook and a chef. Introduced an actual chef. I was able to really get into the food and identifying the ingredients. And I hope that for the readers, I love a book that readers can not only I love a book that readers can hear, taste, and smell, you know, because I think sensory elements are really important to
Yes,
bring
ma'am.
readers in, and also nostalgia. I like to include aspects of nostalgia. Like, I had a reader who talked about how when she was a kid, she would go to the South, and she would actually, her family, they would stomp on the grapes to make the muscadine wine. I love giving people those. I love taking people back to those memories.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I love taking people back to those memories. And so I like writing. Look, child, first of all, I like food, okay? And ain't no better food than food in the low country now. I may compete a little bit with New Orleans, but there's similar gastronomies. And so I like writing about the food. And I think because I enjoy writing about it, it comes sort of easily to me. But I'm not gonna lie, I do a lot of work in revision to make sure I tap down, and that and I get feedback. I have a great friend who critiques with me to make sure that it's coming across on the page the way I want it to come across on the page. Because I want people to feel hungry after they read my books. I don't know why. I guess because I'm hungry after I read. I done wrote it, now I'm hungry. I want you to feel the same thing. And so,
Now you're
but the
hungry.
food in the low country is so beautiful. And I want people to, I think that there are a lot of people who still don't know who the Gullah are, and that soul food, in truth, originated Southern food. A majority of Southern food is Gullah food. Okay, it started with the Gullah, it started with us, and
Mm,
it spread out, and it became soul food. But those original dishes, those original stews, those original,
mm,
okra oyster polos and okra and all of that came out of Black people who bought those recipes and things. There's a thing that I hate to hear people say, and I think they mean their intentions are good. And I know that there's a piece of it that is true, that the enslaved received the slops that came from the master's table, but we bought recipes. Like, we know how to cook. Okay, we know how to work with the ingredients
mhm,
of the land, no matter what land you're on.
mhm,
Because I'll tell you, even when, this is a thing that I learned from watching High on the Hog, even though there was the rice, there was a lot of rice that was grown in the Low Country. Carolina Gold, that's what they called it, made this country very wealthy. But when they originally went and got the enslaved from Sierra Leone and Angola, and from all the West African countries, and brought them here, the U.S. coastline wasn't quite ready to grow rice, even though it was a similar type of topography. So those people, our ancestors, had to work with that land to make it work to grow rice. We've always been a people that know how to
wow.
take something and make it into something. Corn into cornbread,
And make it into
whatever
something.
you need. And so I enjoy making sure, through my storytelling, that people understand that a lot of those wonderful dishes that Dante, with his fine self, was cooking were Gullah dishes. Y'all, this is, yeah, you eating that? That's Gullah. The Gullah did that, and so you may not know it, but that's where
Yeah.
it came from. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Rhonda, thank you so much for sharing about the food in Bitter and Sweet. Guys, if you're just joining us, we're hanging out with Rhonda McKnight. We are celebrating with her. Bitter and Sweet. It is hot off the press. Hold tight. We will be sharing with you how you can get your hands on a copy of it. Rhonda, I'm going to allow you to set the scene, set the tone. Tell us a little bit about what you're getting ready to read. And now you can share a short snippet with us of Bitter and Sweet. And you know we ready, Rhonda. We ready.
Okay, so I've decided I'm just going to go ahead and pop it. I'm going to read the prologue, so that we can meet
Okay.
Grandma, who's up here, summoning folks to come. Okay. And so we began with the prologue, and the prologue begins in Georgetown, South Carolina, in the present day. And we have Grandma Gail Cooper Holland. My expectations were too high. That's what I've been telling myself as I exited the hospital. It repeated in my mind as I started the car and pulled out of the parking lot. The sun had been swallowed by the dark dust, by the dark of dust. By the time I parked behind the restaurant, I reached for my purse and stepped from the car. The keys jangled in my free hand as I walked to the back door. I inserted them, released the locks one at a time, and then pushed the noisy door open. Lingering citrus from the oil cleanser I used on the floor rose to my nostrils. I was impressed that the scent was still so strong. It'd been a week since I mopped. Maybe it was always strong, but this place wasn't always so empty. Usually the tiny kitchen was in use. The smells of spices and coconut and sounds of searing meats and pots of seafood gumbo rolling to a boil always met me at the door. That is, unless I arrived before the cooking began. And that was rare. I was never alone here. I never considered I'd have to be here alone. I looked at the tables, their chairs atop them. The glass door to the bakery case glistened with a haunting emptiness. I stepped to my left and walked into the kitchen. It was small, much too small, I always thought, for all we'd done here. But today it felt huge, like it was swallowing the nothingness that had erected itself and rested in every corner. Nothing had been cooked here in weeks. Nothing had been served to the community who had depended on us for almost 90 years. We would reach 90. Forever was the goal. But we couldn't end at 87. It was too odd of a number. It came up short. 87 was unfinished. I walked to the wall across the room. I called it the Wall of History because it included pictures all the way back to 1937 when my grandmother opened this place. There were pictures of every cook, every celebrity and politician who had ever visited, our family and friends. This wall contained lifeblood. A lot was shed to open this place, and even more was shed to keep it.
Guys, there you have it. That is a snippet of Bitter and Sweet. Let me just tell you, you are in for a treat. This is an amazing, amazing read that I just want everybody to go tell a friend to read this book as well. Rhonda, they are loving the snippet that you read. And oh my goodness, guys, the time goes by so fast. Y'all know I want to keep Rhonda here forever talking about Bitter and Sweet. But Rhonda, I know that you have a giveaway for us. I'm going to allow you, my friend, to share with the people what your giveaway is going to be on today.
Okay, so what I want to do is I don't have the Facebook up, so I don't know how many people are there. I want you to choose a winner, and that winner can win either whatever version of the book they want. So if there's somebody has always already supported me by buying the paperback and they're like, I want that audiobook that you're talking about, because let me tell you, the audiobook is amazing. Amazing. The audiobook is amazing. It is I just want to say I have three narrators, and I feel like these three women are competing. Like I'm gonna be the better actor, I'm gonna be the better narrator, because they have really brought the beauty in their narration. So if the winner like prefers an audiobook, an ebook, they can have an ebook. If they whatever they prefer, that's going to be their gift.
I love that. I love that. Guys, did you hear that? Okay, so it will be reader's choice, whether you want it in ebook, print, or audiobook. And of course, my friend Rhonda McKnight is going to help me. Rhonda, I'm getting ready to go up and down the comment section, my friend. You're going to tell me when to stop, and then that person will be the winner. And I am ready when you are.
Okay, stop.
All right. Dahlia, you are the winner, my friend. And something we were saying,
Hey,
Dahlia was
Dahlia.
saying so true. But Dahlia, if you will inbox me, my friend, let me know what format you want the book in, ebook, print, or audiobook, and provide me with your information. Rhonda will be sure to get that information out to you. So congratulations, my friend.
And I'd
And
like to
thank
say
you.
one little thing. The person who the paperback version comes with a little gift that I was offered to people who had pre-ordered my book. It comes with a bookmark, it comes with an autograph, and it comes with a letter from me and your own little sweet mason jar with some
Nice.
information about what the jar is about. I wrote like a letter to my readers. So if you don't have the paperback, you may want to go for that paperback.
I love that. I love that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Guys, you are in for a treat. I know you are wondering, how can you get your hands on a copy of it? We'll be sharing with you how you can get your hands on a copy. And as we keep letting you guys know, it is available in all three formats, which is always a win: audiobook, ebook, and print. And of course, y'all know our friends at Riches in Reading. That is one of the places that you can get. We'll be putting that link in the comment section, but I'm going to allow Rhonda to tell us other places where you can get your copy of Bitter and Sweet.
Okay, so Bitter and Sweet is available wherever books are sold, and I mean that. Your indie bookstores, your big box bookstores like your Barnes and Books a Million, like she said, Riches in Reading. There is I'm having a book signing at Park Road Books in Charlotte, and anyone who buys from Park Road Books will also, when they let me know they've ordered from Park Roads and give me their receipt, they'll also be mailed these items. So if you want to order from Park Roads in Charlotte, but really, I have a deal going right now with Faith Gateway. The book is 30% off through them. It's just, Amazon, I mean, wherever you can get a book. You may have to, I would suggest calling ahead at your local bookstore and just ask them if they have it, because I think over 100 books were released this past, like every week 100 books are released in this country, and so every book isn't actually on the shelf. So, but I would love it if you went to your local indie bookstore and said, hey, I need y'all to stock this, and it's also available through your library. I'm a big library fan. I'm speaking at the American Library Conference at the end of this month, and I will be actually signing in the Hoopla exhibit. A lot of people borrow my books through Hoopla, and so they've invited me to sign in their salon, and so I'm a library girl. Hey, sometimes that's where you want to get the book, and certainly the audiobook if you have the paperback and you're a library person. Just listen to it. Do both. Do all the things, but it's pretty much available wherever you get books.
I love that. I love that, Rhonda. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us. Guys, you heard it here at the cafe. It is available wherever books are sold. Of course, support your indie bookstores, support others. And guys, of course, if you see it out in the wild, definitely take a picture, post it,
Yes.
tag Rhonda McKnight as
Please
well.
do.
When you get your copy, do a video or a picture of your unboxing, all of those things as well. And Rhonda, it has been amazing hanging out with you today, talking about your new release, Bitter and Sweet. And before we go, Rhonda, I definitely want you to share with us, tell the people, what did Rhonda McKnight enjoy about writing Bitter and Sweet?
Typing the end, as it is always with every book, is what I enjoy. I'm just being honest. But I will say I enjoyed spending time with these strong women and watching them literally every step that they took towards their journey of healing. This is a book about healing. And I won't say that everyone in the book is healed. I won't say that because I don't want to spoil it for you. But I enjoyed watching every step, and I really enjoyed the family secrets. I always have family secrets in my book, so I enjoyed getting to the end and actually figuring out what the family secret was, because I never
Oh,
know
oh,
until I write
wow.
it. I
You're
never
spilling
know
the
until I
tea.
write it. Same thing with the thing about home. I didn't know. I never know until I write it, and then I go, "Oh shoot, okay, that's a
Oh,
trick."
that's it. Oh my goodness. Well, guys, let me just tell you, there is a family secret. There is good food. There is edge of your seat, wanting to see what's next. It's a dual timeline. As I told you guys before, it's a 10 out of 5 in book
Thank
math. So
you.
I want you to run, not walk. Run to your local bookstore. Go to Amazon. Go wherever you are going to get you a copy of Bitter and Sweet. Not only that, guys, once you read it, definitely leave a review. I know that Rhonda McKnight will be so appreciative of that. Not only that, guys, if you're in a book club, tell your book club that this is the book that you guys need to read. Reach out to Rhonda. You never know. She may meet with your book club. She can do it virtually, all of that good stuff as well. But again, tell a friend to tell a friend about Bitter and Sweet. Rhonda McKnight, my friend, it's been amazing. Thank you so
Thank you
much
for
for
having me,
hanging out with
Angela.
us
This
on
was
today.
fun.
And of course, I cannot leave without allowing you to have the last words of what you want to say.
I guess the last thing I want to say is, once you read the book, post a review for me. And if you visit my website, I am on tour. If you're in South Carolina, North Carolina, or uh, Georgia, I'd love to see you. So if you're in any of those states, make sure you visit my website and see my tour. I'd love to read. I know that that's just 3 states, but if you're in those 3 states, I'd love to meet you. But also give us a star review.
I love that. I love that. And Rhonda, I knew that I just said that was the last thing, but of course, you cannot leave without telling us how can we stay connected with Rhonda McKnight.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I love social media, so I'm always on it. Instagram and Facebook are the main social medias that I use. So I have a Facebook page, which is Books by Rhonda. On Instagram, I'm at author Rhonda McKnight. I always respond. I respond to every comment that I get. Because I feel like if someone took the time to comment to me, that I owe them a response back. So I respond to all of my comments and my readers. I do spend some time on TikTok, not as much, but I'm getting better about that. So if you're a TikTok girly, and you tag me in something, I'm definitely going to eventually get back to you. But I'm really social. I love going live on Instagram, a couple of times a month just to hang out and talk about books. So definitely follow me if you like to have those kind of conversations, not just about my books, but about what I'm reading. And I'd love to learn about what you're reading, because I learn about great books from readers too. So yeah, so I hang out on social media way too much.
I love that. I love that. Well, guys, make sure you are staying connected with Rhonda McKnight. You can go to her website. You can find her backlist on her website as well. If you haven't read The Thing About Home, you can read that one as well. And you can find out how to get a copy of that. But Bitter and Sweet, this is the one that is hot off the press as well. Sign up for Rhonda McKnight's newsletter. It's an amazing newsletter, all of that good stuff as well. And guys, as we always say here at the cafe, have an amazing day, because we're having an amazing day. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Go get a copy of Bitter and Sweet. We'll see you later.
Thank you.